Okay, someone wants device driver information. Okay, so here are the devices I support. Keyboard, PS2, mouse, PS2, hard drive. This is PATA, sometimes SATA. It turns out a lot of SATA drives can be accessed. They might have I/O ports at, I remember one in particular had I/O ports at FE10, another one had BC00. So from about 2003 to 2010, my computers were able to work in actual native install right on the hardware without virtualizing, and that's because the port, there's a bank of 8 ports and a bank of 4 ports. Anyway, so this was a pair of ports, 0xFE20, something like that. Anyway, and 0xBC80. So the IDE are 1F0. What is it? 3 what is it? 3. I forgot what it is. 3F4 or something like that. I don't know. The master, the primary IDE is something like that. Anyway, so here's what I'm trying to tell you. SATA on computers from about 2003 to 2010, SATA drives could be used just like IDE I/O ports, but they were at different locations. And you do if you do on Linux, you do a LS PCI. On Windows, you do system information. Then you get those I/O ports, and then you can do just regular old ADA. Okay, so my computer supports keyboard, PS2 mouse, hard drive, CD-ROM, a TAPI, and mine supports, I call this a device, multi-core. That's, I forget what these are, APIC or something like that. I support the PIT timer. I support the PIC interrupt controllers. I do a little bit of APIC. There's a local APIC, and I don't mess with those much. Anyway, so there's a what else is there? So I have VGA 640 by 480, and I have 16 color badge. Okay, 16 color, and I have PC speaker support. So this is all the hardware we're ever going to support. We're not doing PCI. That is beyond the scope. Here's the plan. We are going to tell the hardware companies what to do, and we are going to tell them to do low line count. The rule is the line count can only go down, not up. The line count can only go down, not up. So we're going to tell the hardware companies to obey that. Okay? Because we got God. Let's see what God says. F7. boldly beneath, illuminating, breaking, strayed, instant leading, sayings, learned, ebbing, transferred, couldst upbraid, fig, conditions, things, emptinesses, the thirst, hung, drunk, moon, tendernesses, rightful thunderer. Okay, so if you make fun of my quality of games, well, guess what? Why don't you just directly access the VGA yourself, huh? There you go. This is, you set your index register for which of the 4-bit planes, and then you write to A000 up to BFFFF. You make your game on bare metal, and then you can't blame anybody except the compiler manufacturer, which would be me. Do it in assembly, then you can't blame anybody. So, anyway, so somebody wants me to talk about hardware. So one of my goals is to have one driver for each kind of device. I don't want more drivers. As a matter of fact, I guess we'll talk about the disk. As a matter of fact, I have 3 file systems: Red C 9660 for CD-ROM and FAT32. I want to tell Microsoft to support Red C both on hard disk and CD-ROM, and then we can eliminate this code. That would be very nice. We could. There's one more file. The difference between a professional and an amateur. Let me tell you. I wrote an ISO file creator. This creates an ISO file. An amateur does not create his own ISO file. I create my own ISO file 9660. Anyway, so I bought the specs on the other newer versions of the CD-ROM and Blu-ray and stuff. I bought the specs, but they are major obfuscated fuckers. I paid $700 ISO. Anyway, we're going to tell them we're going to be the new ISO with the hand of God. Fuck you. That's what we're going to do. And they're going to suck it. What the hell? Let's charge money for specs. No, we shouldn't do that. You like that idea, Mr. God? Let's charge money for DNA. Your personal DNA is patented by God. You have to die if you don't pay money. Let's see. Now contentious embracement likenesses as indexes, scales, reader, vein, stars, codes, unity, other nights, height, lovely, mysterious, furnished, devotions, giver, lacketh, blessing, round echoes, baths, tattlings, treasured, births, betters, ergo, into, arrival, stick, transition, warped, presumption, execute, tell, date, forsake, former, Gutenberg, creatures, Athenians, woe, consenting, have, in, ungoverned, hideous, spiritual, sematus, savageness, else, rejoiced, obedient, needful, thine, suitability. I don't know what do you want to see? You want to see the file system driver? So let's look at FAT. What do we got? We got DOS dates. We have to convert dates. When I, you know how you have find first, find next. Basically, you need a programming routine, that API routine that gets a list of files in a directory. So when I do an abstraction layer, I convert DOS dates to my native date, which is 64-bit. That's what an abstraction layer does. I hope to eliminate abstraction layers and just have, if you have virtual file systems, I want I want just one, and it not to be virtual, not to be abstract. I want the same date on the disk as is given elsewhere. I don't like converting because this is extra code, it's extra complexity. I like the grand unification. Nobody's trying to make a more complicated represent. You know, some people act as though, well, why don't we make the grand unification theory? Why don't we go the other direction? Let's make it more complicated. I bet we can make it more complicated. We can make it more abstract. Well, you know, actually, I'm being. It's just the opposite, isn't it? When they do the string theory, that's an abstraction. However, just imagine somebody needlessly complicating it. Anyway, just imagine if this. Never mind. You got a layer of the string theory and a layer of everything interpreted as it currently is. Oh, I should shut up. Okay, so what we got here? This format's a FAT32 partition. They have a very nice spec on the FAT32. You can go to the Microsoft website. They'll tell you everything you need to know about FAT32. There's a really nice document. So this is the only interesting part is right here. They clump together groups of sectors on bigger drives. So I don't know how to explain that to you, but in other words, well, anyway, they clumped. There's a unit of allocation called a cluster, and that's typically like 8 blocks. A block is the same as a sector. It's 512 bytes, although some people like to make different size blocks. You can use an abstraction to keep it the same. Anyway, what do we got here? Root cluster. So the FAT is I will never criticize under engineering. I will only criticize over engineering. USB is an over engineered piece of shit. FAT32 started. I will not criticize something that was under engineered. They did not do long file names when they started. They started small, and I will not. Although we want to get rid of FAT32, I will not criticize them for. Yeah, it's really fucked up. You have file name characters all over in the entries. You have to put together entries. Checksum. I don't have any checksums. It's kind of faggot to put lots of checksums. If your hard disk is giving errors, get rid of it. You don't want to mess with anyway. In the old days, you messed with floppies that did give errors. If I had a hard disk give me an error, I would get rid of it. It's a $100 device. It's not worth 8 hours of lost wages. Okay, so this little map here cleans up all the location of the file name characters are all over the place. So my abstraction layer collects the long name and puts it into my my CDIR entry. This is my abstraction layer that unifies everything. This is what's returned by. I also return the full path information all the time. It's really nice. I return. Everybody else does find first, find next for files. I do all of them at once. That's just how we operate. So when you ask for the files matching a mask in a directory, it gives you all of them. If you recurse, it gives you all of them in a tree. This has next, parent, next, and sub. It's not a tree. It's a linked list with sub lists, and it's a tree. I don't know. Anyway, it's not a binary tree. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so fill the directory entry. Okay, so we have to convert somewhere. I give it the full path. Okay. Don't confuse fill directory entry with fill directory. That is confusing. I should rename that, definitely, shouldn't I? What the hell was I thinking? What did I do? That has a cedar. Oh, that's wicked. That has a cedar. That's terrible. Oh well. I guess it's not bad. Fuck it. Nobody looks in here. So what this does is the directory is some clusters. What it does is we write one of our formatted things. We format our entry into FAT32. We format into FAT32. I think. What is this doing? What are we doing here? No, this is not writing to the sector. This is filling in the entry. This is filling in the entry. Oh, I think I have a pointer to the old or to the long. How do I handle long? There's like two entries for long. I think they come one after the other. Anyway, FAT32 files find, like this finds one file. This finds one. God, I'm gonna kill those birds. Shut up, bird. This finds one file. So what we do is we read a cluster, and the first cluster gives us the directory size. You know how you have dot and dot dot? Well, the first one gives us the directory size. Then we loop. What do we do here? What are we doing? We're looping as long as the first character is not 0. So apparently, in FAT32, if you get a 0 as the start of an entry, it's the end. Okay, I make little attribute. Oh, this is FAT has attributes. Sorry. What am I doing? I'm reading the code. You read the code. Somebody wants me to talk about drivers. So I have this locks the partition and unlocks the partition. I have a lock on the block devices, and then the next level up is partitions. So you might have a disk with 3 partitions. So I have partition locks, and those automatically, I think those lock the block devices underneath. So the rule is, if it was locked when you got it, you keep it locked. That's simple enough. So somewhere I have a mechanism for protecting against Control-C. When we're doing writes, we don't want to break and interrupt a write operation. That would be bad. Anyway, file read. Free clusters, that goes down the FAT chain. Allocate clusters. So there's somebody taught me the secret. What you do is you scan for the same size. If you want stable allocation and reallocation, especially since I do contiguous mostly. Anyway, the secret is you scan for a chunk of unallocated, the same exact size, the closest size. So you don't just take the first one. You scan ahead for the block that's the same size. So FIS is information. This is, you have your boot sector on the FAT that has your basic information. Then you have this funky kind of extra block that's got the most recently allocated. I guess it's good. Oh well. So I don't cache writes. I write them pretty much immediately. So I do lots and lots of writes. I hope I hope I don't wear it out, to be quite honest. Anyway, I have a protection that protects against Control-C. So when you say brake lock, what that means is lock against brake. If you kill a task, there's one more thing I have to get rid of. I do have ownership. If you kill a task, I release anything locked. But the brake lock is anyway. So what the brake lock does is it postpones it until the brake lock unlock, and then you get the brake at the unlock. So right blocks. So I have some special cache. I keep the most recent fat block stored off a structure. I don't know. It's okay, I guess. I wonder if I might do a little bit of caching of the fat block instead of every single. I don't think every single. But I don't want to mess with cache writes. I don't care about performance. That's too dangerous and complicated. I don't have a shutdown. I just give the rule, turn it off. Anyway, what do we got here? Allocate contiguous. Okay. Directory new. Okay, so this makes a new entry in a directory, overwrites an old with the same name. So it scans. The first thing it does is it gets the size of the dot entry. There's dot and dot dot. First thing it does is it gets the size of the dot entry somewhere. And it scans. We got some funky codes for deleted, if it's been deleted. Long name, short name. What I do is the long name is like 2 entries. You have to, I think I have a pointer that lags and lets it take care of the long name. Anyway, available count. What do we got? Delete. Okay, whatever. You have to delete the allocated clusters. The fat table, do you know what a fat table is? It's an array that tells the next entry in the file. So I think I delete, and then I delete the directory entry, and then I delete the chain of fat. So if you powered off, you would have a deleted entry and entries that don't need to be allocated. It's better to fail in that manner. If you have entries that don't need to be allocated, that's not as bad as something fucked up. So I have a fixed disk, a check disk that will fix it, but I would just reformat and reinstall. You can use it to report errors. Anyway, what do we have here? Write file. So we read and write whole files for the most part, and we do it contiguous. That's how the Red C file system works. Find files. Okay, this returns, it even recurses, at least some, maybe it's a higher level. Anyway, you get a whole tree all at once. That's how we roll. Make directory. Okay, what do we got? All right, well, that's FAT32. So there's the next level up has the, I guess, the abstraction. So you'll see a switch of the abstraction doing the different file system types. So all through this you have 3 different versions: Red C, FAT, ISO 9660. So what I'm gonna fucking order Microsoft. They're not assholes. I'm gonna order them. Well, yeah, they are. Get rid of Secure Boot. That's gone. Fuck no. Anyway, we're gonna tell them support Red C so I can get rid of FAT32 and ISO 9660. So my Red C has just a bitmap, not a FAT table. And even though you don't need it, we're just gonna drop the whole image of a Red C partition onto the CD-ROM, including the allocation table, which wastes a little bit of space. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to get rid of all these cases and just have one, the Red C, and that's how we're going to roll. once we get Microsoft on board, we can cut out a lot of lines of code. Some people have orgasms on abstraction layers. I have orgasms on getting rid of them. That's okay. So that's all.